Hey everyone, welcome back to Retirement and Beyond. My name is William Haynes. Today I'm recording the second video in a multi-part video series on how to plan for retirement. In the first video, I talked about defining retirement, which basically is just figuring out what you want, what your goals are for retirement. Today, I'm going to talk about calculating your annual expenses in retirement based on those goals. Before I get started, I'm going to put the weather forecast up here for San Diego, California. Looks like it's 68 degrees and sunny. And over here, weather forecast for Sarasota, Florida, 90 degrees and partly cloudy. Again, I do this for motivation. I know it helps motivate me to save a little bit more for retirement if it means I can get out of, the weather that I'm in right now, and it can be either, 70 degrees or 90 degrees and sunny. Doesn't get much better than that. The second thing I wanted to say is more of a disclosure. Here it is. This video does not contain any personalized advice. It is a purely educational video meant to get you thinking about personal finance. Consult with a financial, tax, or legal professional who has taken the time to learn about your unique situation before making any decisions. Step 1, defining retirement, is going to help us with step 2, figuring out how much retirement is going to cost on an annual basis. So hopefully I've helped you figure out a few of your retirement goals, which will change over the years. Goals change, life changes, and the good retirement plan is going to account for that. So now that we just have a general idea of what you might want in retirement, we're going to figure out how much that costs on an annual basis. We're going to do that with the wage replacement ratio. What the wage replacement ratio does is it helps you figure out how much you need each year in retirement based on a percentage of pre-retirement income. So let's say you figure out you need $80,000 a year in retirement, and you made $100,000 each year before retirement. So the wage replacement ratio divides 80,000 by 100,000 and you get 80%. So that would be your wage replacement ratio. You need 80% of pre-retirement income in retirement. So why is the wage replacement ratio important? Well, the wage replacement ratio is really important because if you have an accurate wage replacement ratio, then you'll be able to calculate how much you need to save for the years leading up to retirement to be able to have what you need to get you to and through retirement. So let's calculate our own wage replacement ratios. There's two different ways you can do this. There's the top-down approach and then the bottom-up approach. The top-down approach is better if you're quite a few years away from retirement, and so you don't need to be as accurate. The bottom-up approach is a little more tedious, but also more useful if you're close to retirement. I'll start with the top-down approach. So, what the top-down approach is you take 100% of your pre-retirement income and adjust it based on what you'll spend more on retirement and what you'll spend less on in retirement. So I think the best way I can explain this effectively is by giving an example. This isn't my actual budget or my actual goals. I'm just trying to get you to understand how to use the top-down approach effectively in your situation. So, 100% of pre-retirement income. Well, first thing to chop off is, I'm not going to have any work-related expenses in retirement because I'm not going to work in retirement. So, about 10% of my budget might be commuting, work clothes, work lunches, coffees, any insurances that I might need in my profession. The list goes on and on. So let's say that's 10% of my budget. Another thing that I'm not going to need to do in retirement is retirement savings. So let's say that I save 15% of my income for retirement. Well, now we're up to 25% because we have 10% in work expenses, 15% in retirement savings that I won't need. So I went from 100% to down to 75%. But a big goal of mine in retirement is to travel. And let's say I want to bump up my travel budget by 10% in retirement so I can visit family and go to new places. Now we're at 85% as a wage replacement ratio because we went down 25%, up 10%, so altogether we're down 15% at 85. So that's how you use the top-down approach to find what your wage replacement ratio is going to be in retirement. Moving to the bottom-up approach, as I said before, it's a little more tedious than the top-down approach, but also helpful if you're within a few years of retirement. So you kind of look at it like your budget. So you take things you need to spend money on, for example, healthcare, housing, groceries, things you can't get around. Like you put them in your budget, you look at your pre-retirement expenses at that specific category and say, okay, am I going to spend more money on this in retirement or less money? This isn't an exact science. I say calculate, but life changes in retirement, just like it does pre-retirement, and also goals change. A good plan accounts for that kind of thing, but this is just a good place to start. All right, so like I did with the top-down example, I'm going to give you a bottom-up example. So say we're looking at my budget again, and I spend 10% of my expenses on groceries, 5% on work expenses, 10% on eating out, 10% on hobbies, 25% on housing, 15% on healthcare, and then 10% on travel. So I look at each one. So we started with groceries. Okay, so I'm taking out a little bit of work expense with work lunches, but that means I'm going to have to spend a little bit more on groceries. So let's say my grocery expenses go from 10% to 13%. Okay, work expenses completely go away, so 5% to 0. Eating out, I may want to go out a little more, especially if I'm traveling. That'll make it so I have to eat out a little more. So eating out, let's say, goes from 10% of the budget to 15% of the budget. So I'm not going to go through each one of those categories. I think you probably understand what I'm talking about now. Write down each category that you spend on now, each category that you spend on in retirement, and then calculate what the difference is there to get the wage replacement ratio. So I think if I went through the entire budget and did it this way, that I would come out to a more exact number for my wage replacement ratio. So maybe instead of 80%, it'll be 83% or 77%. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. One more note. If your wage replacement ratio is less than 100%, so you want to spend less in retirement than you do right now, that is completely normal. But if you want to spend more in retirement, so your wage replacement ratio is above 100%, that's completely okay too. In the next video, we're going to be talking about what your savings rate should be based on what your wage replacement ratio is. So naturally, if you have a higher wage replacement ratio, your savings rate is going to need to be higher. And if you don't have a higher wage replacement ratio, then you won't necessarily need to save as much for retirement to get to and through. So if you guys have any suggestions on different topics you want me to talk about, or if you have any format suggestions or anything to make your viewing experience better, please send me an email. This is my personal email. I'll be taking all the suggestions and making changes moving forward. Thank you so much. If you watch this on Facebook, please like and share if you feel obligated. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then like and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video. And if you're already in Sarasota or you're already in San Diego, we'll see you there soon. Bye.